Guys, we are on module 3, which is standard costing, and the focus of this module is nothing else but to compare actual information and standard information. And then if there's a difference, that difference is called a variance. Okay, what is standard costing? So standard costing, it's an accounting system. Okay, it's an accounting system used in manufacturing to identify the differences or variances. So if there are differences between the actual information and the standard information, and then that difference is called a variance. Okay, and the standard information is the planning, all right? So so what is the actual cost or actual information? Is the cost of the goods that are produced. And then what is a planned cost? Planned costs are the cost that should have been incurred, right? The costs that were planned, right? So these planned costs are also known as standard costs. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next slide. Okay. Now let me give you a brief background. If you can remember in N5, Cost and Management Accounting, you were introduced to 4 management functions, which is planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. So when does this standard costing take place? It takes place during this stage, the planning stage. So in the planning phase, management use the information to prepare for budgets or estimates. All right, that's when management sits down and do a budget or do estimates, and that is called a planning stage where they do standard costing. So standard costing estimates what the cost of the product or will be in a normal circumstance. So this is a planning, all right? This is planning, all right? So standard costing is established in terms of a single unit rather than or instead of a total, e.g. estimating how much it will cost to bake 1 loaf of bread, okay, per unit. I need you to take note of this. I need you to take note of this, right? So we use single units, not total. Okay, single unit, not total. If for instance we are comparing the price of bread, all right, that means we're going to compare the standard cost or the planning standard cost of 1 bread, that is per unit. We compare it with the actual price of bread per unit, not actual price of total bread, right? You will see this is going to be clear when we do the examples and the exercises. It's going to be clear. Okay, let's go to the next slide. All right. As I've said in the beginning, this focus is to compare actual information and standard information. What is standard information? Standard information is planning information, right? Okay, now they say actual information, that is what actually happened, is compared with standard information, what was supposed to happen according to planning, right? According to planning. If for instance you can take an example of a person who wants to go to Johannesburg, okay, and that person plans, that is standard information, that person plans to spend say 10,000 rands, which includes everything, transport, accommodation and spending, and then that person actually goes to Johannesburg and maybe spend 12,000, okay, instead of that 10,000 that was planned. Now you will see here between planning and actual there's a difference, and we said that difference is called a variance, right? It's called a variance, and that variance we have to say whether it's positive or negative, that is whether it's favorable to the person or to the business, or is unfavorable to the person or the business. So according to our example, this person planned to spend 10,000 but he actually spent 12,000, meaning the variance is 2,000, meaning this is unfavorable to this person because there's more 2,000 rand that he has to add, which was not planned. So it's unfavorable to him because that 2,000 would have been used in something else, right? So when you compare these two things, the standard and actual, if there's a difference, then that difference is either going to be favorable to the business or unfavorable, right? So they say it is ideal or perfect or desired situation if the actual is equal to the standard or are the same. For instance, in this case, in our example, if our standard or planning for the trip to Johannesburg was 10,000, and then when we go to Johannesburg and spend that period there, and then we discover that it remains, we spent 10,000. So they say this situation whereby the planning is equal to the actual is an ideal, okay, or is a desired situation, right? Now this is just a theory, guys, but you need to know this theory. You need to know it. So now they say if actual results are not the same as the standard results, then the difference is known as the variance. If when you compare the standard information, which is planning, with the actual, if they are not the same, right, the difference is called the variance. Don't forget that, right? And you must know, must establish whether that variance is favorable or unfavorable, right? So when do we have a favorable variance? So we have a favorable variance when standard cost, that is planning, is greater than actual cost, right? So in our example, okay, let's say this is 9,000. Okay, so they say the variance is favorable when the standard, that is planning, is greater than the actual. So let's go back to our example. If this person plans to spend 10,000 but he actually spent 9,000, right? So that means he spent less than he planned. So there's that change of 1,000, which is favorable to him because he has a change, and that 1,000 he can use it to buy something else, right? Okay, so don't forget, it is favorable, the variance is favorable when standard is greater than actual. When is it unfavorable? So the variance is unfavorable when the actual cost is greater than the standard cost. Okay, it's vice versa. So it's unfavorable when the actual is greater than the standard, right? So this person plans to spend 10,000, but he actually spent 12,000. So this situation is unfavorable because the extra 2,000 he actually spent was not planned for, and it could have been used to do something else. So that's why it's unfavorable, because that person had to put more money. All right. Now, when there's a variance, right? When there's a variance, especially an unfavorable variance, management needs to investigate the reason why there's a variance, okay, and take corrective actions. All right, guys, I hope this theory is clear. And now, this is self-study. You must study the aims of standard costing, the uses, the advantages, and so forth. That is self-study, right? I hope that is clear. Okay. Let's go to the next slide. All right. So this standard costing, okay, wait. So we are going to calculate this standard costing on 3 elements of production. If you can remember the elements of production, which is material, labor, and manufacturing overheads. So we are going to do them step by step. So the next slide, we are going to start with material and do the calculation concerning material. All right. These are formulas we are going to use, guys. And also the slide next after that one, we are going to deal with labor variances, and then lastly we are going to deal with manufacturing overhead variances. All right. For now, you can check example 3.3 on page 89. However, it is not you don't have to until we do present or explain material variances, then you can do this example. Okay. All right, guys, I'll see you when we do part 2, which is when we do the video for material variances. Okay. All right, bye.